And people are still coming in with like verbal lowball. They won't even write the offer. They're just like lowballing it verbally.
That's not good, is it?
And we've seen this, so it's a trend. So like if anyone wants to argue, like the trend is down. Sales are down, prices are down, inventory is probably up. Actually, inventory I think was down, but the sales are down even further. There's no disputing how the market's going at this point. Even Calgary.
Is the housing market crash going to continue in 2026? I've got my buddy with me, John Flynn, to shoot the shit and talk about what is going on. So John, what is going on in the housing market? Is it about to boom?
Well, I'm up here in Arctic Mexico right now, and it's freezing, man. Nothing's happening up here right now. But I heard, according to some of my competitors there that have a few more employees than me, that, it's going to boom next year. Something's going to happen. Sales are going to increase, and I don't know. It's looking pretty positive by the sounds of it. I don't think so. I think we're in for an ice age up here. But some people seem to think sales are going to pick up and the market's going to be off to the races again.
Yeah, I was looking at the Remax forecast that came out, and it was absolutely hilarious because it was saying like, oh, most of the market sales are down, new listings are up, but we're predicting like sales are going to rise even though they're at decade lows. So is it that they're just seeing something that we're not, or is it just that they're paid economists like you've said before, and this is what they're paid to come out with every year and try and drum up some FOMO?
I honestly don't know where they got their data. I looked through that report, and I'm waiting for the next report also from our other buddy there, Phil Soper. But at least the Remax guy, I'll give him credit. He is the licensed realtor, the president. So it's good to see he's like in the business and he's got a license and he's working. But I did look through the report, and there's not a lot in here that I can go off of. There was some claims, though, that 10% of Canadians plan to buy a home in the next 12 months.
Saw that.
And half of them are first-time buyers. So 10% of Canadians. This is not 10% of the people polled here. This is a pretty bold claim here. So we have 4 million now Canadians are going to buy a home in the next 12 months, according to this report.
What?
Seems like a lot.
Let me give you some stats here. So there was an average of the last 15, 20 years. There's been 490,000 sales per year, MLS sales per year in Canada. So we're going to have almost 10 times that. Anyway, now this outlook, it's an outlook now. It's not a forecast, actually. That's the legal terms here at the fine print at the bottom. The outlook was based off of a survey of 1,530 something people. So 1,500 people answered this survey. So maybe 10% of those people are looking to buy a house, but it says 10% of Canadians in one of the highlights. So yeah, I think this is more of an opinion, and we both have opinions, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. But this is more of an opinion piece than it is a ground down data driven survey here. This is, it's just a random survey of people. I don't know who the people were. 17% of Canadians are concerned about return to office mandates. I'd say that's probably pretty true. Anyway, so I don't see this forecast really. It's kind of a general forecast, but I think it's the way they presented it, and the media might have presented it, that was the error, in my opinion, because 3.4% increase in sales, that's not a big deal, right?
No.
We had low sales this year. We're on track to do around 460,000 sales, and the long-term average is 490,000. 2024 was 484,000 sales, and I think 2023 was 481 or something. So to say that we're going to have a 3 or 4 or 5% increase in sales is not outrageous. But I think what they didn't focus on, and what they should have focused on, and what I always talk about, is the inventory, right? It's how's that inventory going to look? And they don't talk about inventory. So inventory is going to continue to increase. But one thing they did put in here was their price outlook is almost down 4%. Prices are going to drop 3.7% as per this outlook. So, but again, when you look at the media and the reports, all the focus is on the sales picking up, not the prices going down, which is typical. And I don't know, I don't understand how the media always focuses on the positive when it comes to these real estate outlooks and forecasts, but everything else is negative. Like I know. I don't know how they pick and choose what. So, and as we know, pessimism and negativity sells a lot more than positivity. So it's just really odd. I don't know if they're part of the same ETF funds or something, like, but they're out to lunch. I forecast forget about sales, because you have to look at the sales to new listings ratio or the sales to active listing ratio, whatever you want to do. That is going to probably still decrease. Even if it stays the same, it's very suppressed sales. Prices will continue to decline. And these guys agree that prices will decline. Korea's forecast said that prices will increase. I think it was 3 or 4% next year, but they've always been off on their forecasts too, because they're optimistic when on their outlooks. They said in 2025 prices were going to increase by 6.6% or something like that, and prices have declined. We'll see at the end of the year overall, but they have declined for most of the year. For the data, I think up till October, we don't have November data yet. So for 10 months of the year, 6 of those 10 months, prices have declined, and the declines have been a lot bigger than the increases. The increases was like, the biggest increase was like 1.5% or something, and the biggest decline was like 3.4. So we've seen a lot bigger declines, and 6 out of 10 months declines also.
Wow. So yeah, the market is getting worse then. So what about like buyers and sellers? So if you're selling a home, I know you've said about it before on like the previous interviews that we've done and talks that we've had, like, is the best advice now still for sellers to sell in the current market instead of trying to hold off and wait for a better price, especially if they're in like Ontario, for instance, where there's a lot of price declines in markets?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I wish it was just an easy answer, because the mindset for a lot of sellers are they need to get so much money. And right now, I would say immediately no, because of seasonality. Right now we're in December and January. Like if I was to say like just sell while you still can, like you're going to get beat up even more in the season right now. So I would say wait until, like, I've canceled all my listings beginning of the month now. They're all going to expire or getting canceled. I'm not going to deal with them. Like, sellers want the most amount of money. Unless you're willing to give your property away for a lot less than you could get for it maybe 2 months ago or in 3 months from now. And I'm just going to forecast, like, I don't think it's hard for prices to go down in the spring, right? Because you have that seasonality, buyers are coming back out. You have a lot more buyers coming out before the listings hit the market. This spring could be different because last spring wasn't that great. But I would expect that if you need to sell, and if you don't wait, don't think that the spring you're going to get 10% more than it's worth right now. You need to sell it when you can. Of course, right now, December, January, the slowest months, lowest prices. Like, obviously, I'm not advising anyone to sell now unless you're desperate and the bank's literally going to take your property, which you could be at that point, and there are people at that point. But otherwise, yeah, wait until the spring. This is not a false promise though of like prices are going to skyrocket in the spring. It's just a better market. There's more buyers, and you probably will get more money than you're going to get right now. But yeah, get rid of it. If you've got a property to sell, get rid of it early in the year. February is usually good, again, because that sales to new listings ratio, you have a lot of buyers coming out and a lot of listings aren't up yet. So because a lot of people still wait for the spring. They say, I'm going to wait until March and April until the sun's out and the grass starts growing. Yeah. And it's too late, because that's when all the other listings are coming out. So if you want to capitalize on the seasonality, but yeah, again, get rid of it, because it's not looking good for the housing market. Again, inventory every year, we're seeing higher lows in the inventory, and the low points of the years are higher, and higher highs too. So that inventory keeps making new highs. Again, seasonality affects this. So you can't look at individual months and say inventory's down or there's less new listings, because right now, November, you're going to hear that there's less new listings, and that sales to new listings ratio is going to increase, meaning it's going to become more of a balanced market. But that's the seasonal thing. So you got to look at the big picture.
Yeah. And what about for buyers then? Because you said about like December, January. I know December is like for buying a house, like there's less inventory on the market, but you can probably get a deal if you can find one, because people are desperate, I'm guessing, at this time of year if they're listing their house, especially in December.
Yeah. So if your house is on the market in December, like it's just your agent just left it like that, or you need to sell it. So yeah, buyers, there's good opportunities right now. Not the best opportunities in the market, mind you. This is not like my home buying recipe, like has all come together and now is the time to buy. We're at the bottom of the market, but it's an opportunity time where you can go in, you can negotiate. Don't be scared to negotiate, right? And you got to know who you're dealing with, like your agent that you're working with. You got to look at the listing. When did those people buy it? How long has it been on the market? Look at the history and see, can they sell it to you for a deal or for your price. Or if you look at the listing and it's $600,000 and they paid $690,000 for it, well, it's probably going to be hard to negotiate a lot off that listing. So it matters with the listing you're looking at too. But yeah, definitely now, I always say summer and winter, best times to negotiate a deal on a house. Less inventory, but if there's a house that you want, by all means, go after it and negotiate. But again, prices, I tell all my buyers, is prices will continue to go down next December. That house that you buy this December is most likely going to be worth less. I forecast it will be, but nothing's guaranteed, especially with the way the government operates and prints money these days.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of increasing in deficit spending that's going to happen. And who knows, there could even be a 40-year mortgage coming down the road. They're talking about a 50-year mortgage in the United States. So what do you think of that? Like, what do you think of 40-year, 50-year mortgages? Do you think this will be a good thing long term for the housing market, or is this just more fucking can kicking from the government?
Yeah, so I heard about that 50-year mortgage proposal in the US. I don't know, I didn't follow up on it, but I do know, I have watched and I have heard, and I've been watching, paying attention to the US. The US market's starting to decline. The house prices starting to decline a lot of places now. And they'll blame Canada a lot of places down south in Florida and stuff. And I do know a lot of people, older people that sold in Florida because they're mad at the whole situation and they want out. But regardless, it's the property taxes, the cost of living, everything, right, is forcing people to sell these homes. So we are seeing U.S. So, and that's another thing that's going to affect Canada. If you think that the U.S. house prices are going to decline and Canada is going to be just, everything's going to be rosy up here, it's not going to happen. Like, this is just more pressure on the Canadian housing market when the U.S. starts to slide. And they've actually reached new highs after we did. So their cycle's a little bit different than ours because their economy was a little more resilient. Canada was built on real estate Ponzi's and whatnot, and the U.S. has a lot more intricate trade system and economy. But yeah, the 50-year mortgage proposal is just a sign of the times. It's just a way to try to prop up that declining housing market. And they'll do whatever they can over there. But it's a terrible idea. The average first-time buyer now is well into the 30s. It's almost pushing 40 in Canada, but let's just call it 35. So you're not going to be able to pay that mortgage off in your working life, even in your life. You'll probably be dead by the time you pay that mortgage off. And
Yeah.
and it's like the whole mortgage and life and the system is now it's just this big Ponzi. So most people don't actually get a 25-year mortgage and pay it off. They go 5 or 10 years and they refinance, and because they have a car, a truck, they have to roll into it. So your mortgage, nowadays, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but you can look it up. Canadian seniors are one of the biggest population that are taking out new mortgages or have mortgages now. It's crazy. Whereas before they paid off their mortgage and they were retired and they lived a happy life, but that's not the case anymore. So yeah, 50-year mortgages, it's now that just almost blurs the line between renting and owning. You don't actually own if you have a 50-year mortgage. The amount of interest you pay is astronomical. And again, then it's after 10, 15 years that changes. 10, 15 years, after you have to refinance because they just keep proposing more things to you, and you have to retrofit, you have to renovate your house, and it's insanity. You should be paying, I tell everyone, and again, we're not talking about taking the equity from your house and investing it and maximizing your returns. That's a whole investment strategy. This is a new thing. This wasn't around 10 years ago. People didn't think like that. Pay it off as quick as you can. That's what I tell everybody. Don't just rent your house from the bank. Pay off your mortgage as quick as you can. They should be actually reducing the mortgage amortizations, which would actually bring house prices down too. But that's what they should be doing, not increasing them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And there's a degree of risk there as well in Canada, because the mortgage, you have to renew it every 5 years for most people. So what's your average interest rate going to be over 30 years? That's what people need to bear in mind. Not what is the interest rate that you're getting for the next 5 years. Is where do you think inflation is going? Do you think it's going to be low? Then you can say, well, I think the average rate is going to be low. But if you think inflation is going to be high, you're probably going to be paying higher interest rates as well. And then you're going to laugh at this, but I just thought it's a sign of the times. One of the fastest growing companies in Canada for 5 years straight, John, is a reverse mortgage company, home equity bank.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
I think this is like a thing that's going to become more of a problem, don't you? Like more and more people are going to come to retirement with full pensions, and then basically they're going to be reliant on their home equity. So like we just discussed, they're going to be in debt forever, essentially, even if they're not paying a payment. Like their kids are not going to inherit, like that money is gone, their equity.
Yeah. So yeah, the reverse mortgage has been around for a while, but I didn't know that it was one of the biggest or fastest growing companies.
5 years.
But it's the problem is the cost of living for our seniors and the cost of retiring. Like they can't afford it anymore, so they have no choice but to do the reverse mortgages. Before it was just like the odd person. Now it's becoming more common, and I think that adds to that statistic of the retirees are the fastest growing new mortgage holders in Canada, because probably the reverse mortgages. I just want to actually go back to that 50-year mortgage thing you brought up. Canada used to have 40-year mortgages in like 2007 under the Harper government, and then they rolled them back after because they knew, I don't know exactly what happened, but obviously it wasn't a good idea. So yeah, we actually had 40-year mortgages at one point.
Yeah, I actually remember that. I know a little bit about it because I did some research into it once. And it's actually quite funny because, again, like no bank is going to write a 40-year mortgage. So they want guarantees. So, of course, like the government was insuring these mortgages. Like they wouldn't have existed without the CMHC insuring them. And it's just like CMHC actually insures a lot of loans, even ones that are uninsured. Like a lot of people who have uninsured mortgages, the banks just go ahead and pay CMHC anyway for the premium because they're like, this is ridiculous. I'm getting taxpayer subsidized insurance here. I mean, it's a fucking joke. It makes me really mad talking about this stuff. So we better change the topic.
Well, I think the good thing is like CMHC insured mortgages are actually lower this year than like many other years, so that's a good thing. So, but that's probably going to change, right? They need to change.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. And are there any Christmas deals out there in the housing market? Any late Black Friday deals?
Oh, yeah. Anyone on my listings, please come buy them. It's so weird. Like so. Again, I talk about seasonality because it matters so much in real estate, but for the last 3 years, it keeps getting worse. The seasons, like now it's like so slow in December and even late November. It was super slow. I have like listings, and my sellers might be watching, but like I list a property and it's like listed right for the market, even below any recent sales, and no one's looking at it. Like not a call, not a showing, and it's like scary. I have another one. We've dropped this thing, like we keep dropping it, and people are still coming in with like verbal lowball. They won't even write the offer. They're just like lowballing it verbally because they don't even want to waste the time. And this is like if it sells at like even close, even what the seller's willing to, it's like the best deal in like the given town, like in like years, and it's still sitting there though, the house, and it's like crazy. So yeah, we're seeing that big shift, and you always have to compare year over year, right? So we're going to compare last November, and if you look at the Toronto Real Estate Board stats, they just came out and people are slapping them all over X and Twitter or whatever, and it's like people are just like, everything is down year over year, like everything. So, and we've seen this, so it's a trend. So like if anyone wants to argue, like the trend is down, sales are down, prices are down, inventory is probably up. Actually, inventory I think was down, but the sales are down even further, so it's down. So yeah, there's no disputing how the market's going at this point. Even Calgary, Calgary is cracking right now. I track Calgary, so when I track it, I do the monthly stats on Calgary, and I look at the sales to new listings ratio, which is like the performance of the market, the overall health of the market, and it's come down every month. It's been down year over year. So for the last 3 years. So it looks like it peaked in 2023, Calgary. Prices still increased up until this year. They were hitting new highs, I think, in the spring. But now those year over year, it's been like 3 or 4 months in a row, year over year prices have declined right now, and so you're getting year over year price declines in Calgary. So the Calgary market is now being affected. So Calgary is a secondary market, and then all these other places are tertiary markets like Saskatchewan, and but like places like Calgary, I think in Quebec Quebec. I don't know what to say about Quebec. Like the Quebec's still making new highs.
Well, I actually did some research on that to try and figure it out, but you might know this, you might not. But Quebec is making new highs a lot of the cities like Montreal in rents. Rents have been going up a lot. So I don't know if that's just where the investors have gone to right now and they're just there. And also like unemployment isn't as high in Quebec. I don't know how it's being kept down, but I mean, eventually it's going to start to feel the full force of what's happening everywhere else in the economy. It just seems to be like lagging. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Quebec gets. I don't know a lot about Quebec, but and I always ask in my videos, like, let me know, tell me what's going on, and people do leave comments. But Quebec gets a lot of money from the government, right?
Yeah.
Like I looked at the stats on the prime ministers and the amount of time they spent in office and where they're from, where their home riding was. And it's like over 40%. I think it was like 45% of prime ministers from the inception of Canada are from Quebec ridings. So like
Wow.
the Laurentian elites is like a real thing. Like they get a lot of money. Their housing accelerator fund. So there was, what was there, $4 billion? I can't even remember the number because there's been so many numbers. But yeah, there was $4 billion in the first phase of it. And then they topped it up a little bit. They got 900 million, but there was everywhere else got right to the cities, right? So they're like, Toronto, here's this, because they know the provinces, they have to bypass the provinces, the Canadian government, because the provinces are going to say, well, we got this green zone and that zone, and provinces really dictate land usage, right? So cities dictate within their own municipalities, as long as it's within the urban boundaries. And this is why they said, look, we can't get you to take, farmland that's not being used to build homes because the province isn't going to allow it. So we're going to just get you to make secondary suites in people's backyards. And this is why they went to all these cities. Like Calgary's a perfect example. And then Calgary's rolling it back now because it's backfiring on them because people are building these monstrosities and the neighbors are getting pissed. Only Quebec, they didn't have to go to the cities. Quebec, they just gave them a lump sum and said, do what you want with it. So, and the cost per unit I looked at if you look at like my old videos, I have it was like $35,000 per unit they said they're going to build so many units, which they're not, these other cities. And they give them, however many millions, hundreds of millions. And it was like 35,000, 38,000 per unit on average because, the infrastructure is different prices in different parts of the country. Quebec, they got like 350,000 per unit. And Quebec said, well, we're going to match it ourselves. So they literally got more than anyone per unit, like 10 times, 9 or 10 times more. And yeah, this is what's happening. The government subsidizes Quebec. And you always hear about the Calgarians. And I don't know, the equalization payments. I don't know anything about that. I know that there are equalization payments, but they're always complaining that Quebec gets it and Quebec blocks everything, which again, I'm not going to get into it. I know nothing about it. I do know that we should have our Canadian oil going to the East Coast because they're 100% the East Coast, which I thought it was just like partial. 100% of their oil is foreign. It's from the States. It's from all these other countries. And we got all the oil in the world in Canada. And so, and it's because of places like Quebec that they're like, no, we don't want you going through our mountains and whatever. So, or through our Arctic tundra up by the Hudson Bay, wherever, right? Like just put the freaking pipeline in and ship the oil. They're using the oil. It's like they're using oil. Like it's not going to change.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous what is going on there. And then what do you think about like new home sales? Because my God, like places like Toronto and Vancouver, collapse is an understatement of what's going on. Like it is just dead. Even I always play this clip of this guy who's like, the condo market is totally dead. But really, when you look at new home sales, like I think it was 30 or something that sold in Toronto. What do you think of that? And there's so many jobs also that rely on that. And what's going on in like your area as well? Because obviously you probably had a lot of the people that were moving out, work from home bullshit during the pandemic that went out Stony Creek, Hamilton, as far as Niagara Falls as well. And then they all started building up all these developments and everything. Have those people just completely vanished now?
So what I've noticed in my area is a lot of the students are vanishing. Like even on my street, there was a student rental and there's like all these cars there and those delivery vans. There's like nothing there now. There's like one car in the driveway, not hardly any students standing at the bus stops. So we had a lot of that student influence, but yeah, there was people that came. I have one of my followers that moved, rented a house just behind me and they were going to buy a house here, but now he has to go back to work. He's back one day. I think he's going to have to go back more. So when he does decide to buy, he's going to be buying in Mississauga or somewhere. He's not going to buy in Niagara because the commute's going to kill him. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of that shift too. But when it comes to new home sales are few and far between or non-existent and the construction, because nobody can afford to buy them. Like the land cost, even in Niagara, it's like our development fees aren't astronomical. They're still too high, pushing $40,000. And then you got the HST. And the HST, mind you, let me just talk about that for a second. The HST from the government is BS. They're giving the HST rebate to, or GST or whatever their portion of it is, to first-time buyers. And so they push this. I heard them in question period the other day, and they're like, you voted no. They're telling the Conservatives. You know how many people are going to get that HST rebate? Like first-time buyers buying brand new homes? Like nobody. There's no first-time buyers that can afford a brand new home. Like so they know they're bragging about doing this, but why don't they give it to everybody? Why don't they give the GST rebate or exemption to everyone on new homes? Because they know it's going to cost them too much money, but they say we're going to give it to first-time buyers. Well, I've never sold a new house to a first-time buyer. Now, I don't sell that many new homes, but I'm telling you, I've never heard of many people selling homes to first-time buyers, new homes to first-time buyers, so that's BS. When it comes to home construction, they're still building stacked towns. Like nobody wants them. We're in the market right now. I was just saying this to somebody else. In Niagara, we had, so many agents from out of town, GTA, Toronto agents coming in, during this run up. And then even 2023, 2024, I have not seen a GTA agent request a showing, submit an offer, anything. They're non-existent. Every agent I'm dealing with now is a local agent. So, which is a good thing. We've reverted kind of back to this pre-pandemic, pre-run up thing. And we're not seeing these out of towners come into Niagara and drive up our prices. Well, it cost them 1.2 million in wherever. Let's pay 900 for it here. So that's another thing that I've noticed in the market too, is it's the boundaries have kind of been reclaimed by the local agents, because again, there's no buyers. That's just probably why they're not coming. Also, they just don't have buyers.
Do you have like views for each listing that you put on like realtor.ca? Does it show you how many people view it and favorite it and everything like that? And how is that comparing to like 2021 and 2022 to now?
Oh yeah, you know what? I did some like screenshots, or I have some historical stuff somewhere on that, but it is insane. Like I don't have the exact, but yeah, like in 2021 and 2022, early 2022, like the views were like, I remember one of my clients with a video, because I'll do like a video tour of the house, like with a little drone shot and me walk through or whatever, and he was like, got 1,000 views, John, and like it was like a week, right? Because he watched it, right, and he was selling his house, and I was like, yeah, whatever, it's great, it really didn't mean much, but it was good. It's better than none, right?
Yeah.
Now, like you look at, so I can track my YouTube videos for the houses. Now it's like 10. Like it was like 1,000. Now it's like 10. Yeah. Like it's not like 50% lower. It's like, 100% lower than it used to be. So yeah, like the views online are so much lower. Yeah. It's completely different. Now that was complete opposite, but we went from one extreme to the other. And I'll look some up and I'll let you know. But
yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
I'll do it while we're talking. I'll do it while we're talking right now, just to give you a little example here. It won't take me long. So
yeah, I think as well, one thing that's been really interesting is rent prices, because obviously you had such an influx of investors into these areas like Niagara Falls, London, Ontario, Kitchener, Cambridge, all these different places that were buying all these new homes. And surely the rental inventory has gone up and now the students are disappearing. So the rents must probably be reversing as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just thinking about that yesterday. So you're going to have pressure on rent prices, and downward pressure, and especially in Ontario, where the epicenter of the student rental was. So you have all these students that are leaving, or their visas are expiring, and they're going to try to stay. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Hopefully they chase them out somehow, because they're not supposed to be here. This was a immigration scam, right? Is what happened with that. They weren't legitimate students. They were told, come here and do this, buy a Dodge Charger or whatever, and drive around and do Uber. But that is changing. So we have that. So and again, I see that in my neighborhood. There's less students in these homes, so they're going to be filled. Those landlords are going to be getting less money, because they were making out like a bandit from these students. They're going to be getting less money, but you also have all these purpose-built rentals that are coming online. And
yes, I saw that.
and I don't know if it was you, we talked about it last time, but like Hamilton, like almost every condo project was converted to purpose-built rentals now because they get the government handout on that one, the CMHC 50-year mortgages, right, on those. And I guess they just did the rug pull with some ratios on them too, which I
Oh,
haven't looked into
really?
yet. Yeah, so it was a percentage, like, so when you get the handout from CMHC or the support, it was like you have to have like less than 30%, affordable, geared to income, median incomes, rental prices and whatnot. I think they changed something with that or with one of these other, but it was a big deal for people that were trying to, and you get points, right? So you get, okay, so many of your units are this, and you have to have 50 points or 100 points to get the full incentive. So they just
Right.
changed something. So they just screwed a bunch of people. And again, I need to know the details, but again, that's what the government does, right?
Yeah.
Rug pulls.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't urge
So
anybody to put their
So
faith in
yeah,
the
with the
government.
rental market, there's going to be a lot, but there's going to be tons of purpose-built rentals. If you look at the charts from like CMHC, like it's all purpose-built rentals, which was needed. Like we needed it, but we needed them consistently, just like home building was. We needed consistently. Not let's do all this and now let's just flip it and just like there's no, it's just free for all. But anyway, so they went from one extreme to the other, and going to have effects on the market, right, on the rental market. So and why you can have all these new purpose-built rentals, people aren't going to have to buy. They're going to, why am I going to spend $4,000 a month rent over here when I can get a rental for $2,000 a month and save my money? I'll wait for the right opportunity to buy a house. And that's what I tell
Yeah.
people. I say, don't think about when you're going to buy, like what year or what date. And I forecast in 2026 and 2027 looks like they're going to be good years for purchasing, but look at the opportunity when the opportunity arises. It could arise based on your situation right now. If you're looking for a certain property, rural, and something comes up. I saw a property that needed a little structural work, but it was backing onto a ravine at this provincial park. Like it's a rare property. It was $499, and it was an estate sale, and
Wow.
that was a good opportunity for someone. So, like again, the opportunities come, and you got to be ready. So I think it's making sure you're prepared for when the opportunity does come, instead of trying to get prepared at that point. Because I see a lot of that in real estate. They kind of put the cart before the horse when it comes to buying.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I was going to ask you this question actually, because would you say if somebody has rent that is fairly low compared to buying a home, like is now a good time to increase their cost of living to like buy that home? Like let's say they're renting their house for $2,000 a month and then all in for all their expenses and whatever. If they buy and they can afford to buy, then it's going to be $3,000 a month. Does that make good financial sense? It doesn't make financial sense to me.
Yeah, so I go through this scenario a lot with people, and I've debated people, and I have someone close to me that, and it's all about the pride of home ownership and the security,
Yeah.
and it does come down to, because right now, like most, if you want to rent a home, like most of those or all of them are privately owned, and you don't know what the owner's going to do, and so you have no
Yeah.
security of tenancy. They could sell, they could move in, and you don't know, right? You're not going to
True.
live there for 10 or 20 years. It's very rare that you will, and so that's the one reason. But when it comes to the numbers, like, okay, let's take that off the table, and let's just say that you could, compare apples to apples. What happens is, let's call it, you can rent a place for $2,000 and you can buy it for $3,000. Realistically, in my area, it's about, you can rent something for $2,700 and or buy it for $3,700 with all your property tax and everything included, right? And that doesn't include maintenance. It's actually more money and upkeep and all the rest of that. So you have $1,000 difference, and then they'll say, well, that's $1,000, and the rest you're just throwing away. That $2,700 or $2,600, you're just throwing it away to a landlord. And I say, go look at your mortgage calculator and look at the interest you're paying. So in the first, like, you're almost paying 22, 20, like and also you don't get back your property tax. You still get the services when you're renting. You get the exact same services with your property tax when you're renting, which you're not paying. You're throwing away your interest, which is like $2,000. You're throwing away the property tax money. So what are you getting? You're at the point where, okay, you're actually getting $1,000 in equity per month from owning a house. So you're paying an extra $1,000, but you're getting that in equity. So you're still spending $2,500 or so out the window, whether you're renting or owning. So, but renting, you don't need a down payment. If you want to rent, you can say, hey, I don't need a down payment, I can rent. You want to buy, you got to come up with a big down payment now. Like you got to put 10% down, or else you're giving, if you put 5%, you're giving 4% back to the government for insurance. you're pretty much you're just throwing your 5% away, like it's gone, right? But with closing fees, like it's more than gone. So you got to put 10% down. So you need like $80,000, $100,000 just to close a deal with lawyers' fees and all the rest of this stuff. And you're at the same point. You're literally at the same point. Now the difference is you're in a house that's declining in price. So if you want to say, okay, I'm going to get $1,000 that's going to go in equity in my house, or I'm going to have $1,000 that I can spend on whatever I want, better quality of life, or I'm going to put it in some investment that's probably going to grow. You could put it in anything. Like you could put it in friggin' silver and it would do better than the housing market. Like you could put it in the stock. I think the stock market is going to, way overvalued. It's going to crash hard too, but because it just doesn't make sense. But at least you can pull it out when it starts to crash and you don't have to worry about selling it. But again, you're $1,000 either way. You can put it wherever you want, and you're choosing to put it into a house that's declining in price, but you get security of tenure in that house. So it is. But again, it's how would you feel next year when you could buy that same house for $50,000 less with a little bit lower down payment?
Yeah.
And are you going to be, so if you're going to be kicking, if you're going to watch house prices and if you're going to kick yourself, then don't do it. But if you don't care and you're like, the perfect house came up, I couldn't care less, it's 600,000 in one of these suburban neighborhoods and I don't care. Well, okay, it might be 500,000, but if you don't care about that, sure. I think it could be an opportunity now to get into the market.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's funny because when people have asked me in the past, like with financial products and not houses specifically, but should I sell or should I wait and hold it? I always say the same thing, kind of like what you just said. Well, what matters to you more? Like if the house goes up in value $50,000, how mad are you going to be? If the house goes down in value $50,000 after you bought it, how mad are you going to be then? So you've got to weigh it up with your emotions and whether you're going to kick yourself, because unfortunately real estate isn't like the stock market where you can sell 2/3 of your position in the stock market because you think it's crashing or it's going to crash, and then you just leave 1/3 on there to ride it out in case it doesn't crash. And then if it does crash, okay, you still got 1/3 in there, but you kept 2/3 back. You can't do that with a house. You can't like sell the roof and then keep all the walls and everything. It's just all or nothing. And it's a big commitment because it's highly leveraged. So I think it's wise advice there that you've given to people to just kind of really evaluate it from a mathematical standpoint instead of just using your emotions, because I think too many people use their emotions, and we saw what happened when people use their emotions during 2021. And speaking of emotions, are you seeing, I know we talked about this earlier this year, that you said that you were starting to see more and more fear that was kind of creeping into the market. Has that continued? Has it slowed down? What's your kind of feeling on that?
Yeah, so I do compare it to the stages of grief, right? And we're seeing that. I think we're almost seeing like the acceptance. Like we're like it's weird. It's like those stages come almost before the worst part of it. I think now everyone. And I think you could agree, and I think anyone watching this video could agree that I think most people have accepted the market right now the way it is. And there is still some hope out there, which is part of that stage, one of the stages. So there are some people that are still like, well, next year, but they've been saying this next year, and there's only so much of the population's next that really haven't heard that line from maybe a realtor or something that says, well, wait until the spring, we'll put it back on the market. But they know like it's been going on like this. Like some people have been going back on the market every year and saying next year, and it just hasn't happened. And there's new people entering the market, sellers entering the market that are still in that mindset, but they're realizing this is not happening. So yeah, I think it's like mixed with fear, and we're probably just entering the fear stage, but it's mixed with fear and acceptance from a lot of people. But we're going to see the real fear when the job losses increase, because as you know, we're hearing stories. We hear stories about job losses in Canada, Algoma Steel and Stellantis and automakers, and this is when you're going to see more fear from the people that matter too. And this is where it gets tough. Like we haven't even been through the tough points of this crisis yet, or this cycle, I should call it. We're still entering those, and we've seen the investors, that speculators that took a chance on the housing stock market lose money, and they're like, oh, that sucks. But you're going to see the end users now, the families, and this is where I think you're going to see the sentiment really shift a lot more, and it's going to be a lot worse. And you hear, like, even when politicians, and I think the Bank of Canada, and like they're saying like you got to be prepared for it's going to be tough times coming, right? Like, this is the sentiment going forward. So
it'll be painful. Our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
Fear, acceptance, something. But it's definitely there. Yeah, it's definitely out there.
And you saying that about obviously job numbers, I've been looking recently at construction jobs, and I think they're a major risk because people don't realize like how much of employment construction really is. Like, it's over 2 million jobs. Like, even the construction industry themselves is warning like 10% of those jobs could go over the next year. They're literally saying it, which would be around about 800,000 people. I'll have to check the calculations on that and put it on the screen now.
We're in the process of laying off thousands of people right now. A year from now, give or take, those people that are working on all those high-rise projects that are getting finished are going to be unemployed, which is terrible.
The condominium market is absolutely dead right now.
But it's a lot of people that could lose their job. And if you look at what's been happening to construction jobs, they were going up in 2023. And this year, there's been a change. Like, they are down just a little bit, but next year we could be down like 2-3%. And that will impact unemployment massively because that is such a huge industry. And the thing that I think could happen as well could create even more fear is that you just get this self-reinforcing loop, right? Where construction people are losing their jobs. That makes local economies worse. Less people are buying houses. That makes the construction industry worse. That means more layoffs. And then you're just going round and round in this circle, which is like a self-reinforcing doom loop, essentially, of people losing their jobs. And I don't wish that on anybody, especially in the job market today in Canada, because it's just a complete show. There's no other way of putting it, especially if you're in places like Toronto. But it looks obvious to me that you're going to see more construction people losing their job. What do you think about construction jobs and the possibility of people losing their job related to real estate and construction?
Yeah, so as we all know, and as you talk about many times, like the Canadian economy is built off of real estate. So, and I think about this, and I think about you. Do you know how much stimulus was pumped into the economy? And I call it stimulus because whatever, there's a good reason for it. But how much of that was pumped into the economy with the increase in house prices? If those house prices weren't increasing, people couldn't have taken equity out to buy more homes and speculate on more homes. They couldn't have taken equity out to buy those nice cars or even regular cars. They couldn't have taken the money out to renovate their houses. I would hope someone would start a business somewhere in this country, but I'm sure some people did start businesses. So that fueled a lot of Canada's economy, the real estate market, and the appreciation in real estate prices. What happens when there's no more equity to be taken out because house prices are going down? So like, this is like a blow to the economy that people don't have equity to take out of their homes. A lot of people don't. Some people do. Obviously, lots of people still do. But there's many people that have no equity or negative equity now in their houses, and they can't put that into that. So it's like a huge blow to the economy nobody talks about that. It was, asset price appreciation that kept this Ponzi going. And now that that's over with, it's where's the money going to come from? This is why you're seeing the government start up their money printers now with the biggest deficits, outside of COVID and all the rest of the stuff. So the government is literally going to be paying people, and I think that they're going to try to pay construction workers through their modular housing or prefab factory stuff. I don't know how that's going to work with the infrastructure projects, but maybe people will shift to Alberta if that pipeline does get built. But they're talking about like 2040 before that thing even gets built. Like it's like not even in like a lot of people's lifetimes that are making these decisions right now. Construction jobs, I don't know what's going to happen to these people. Like, where are they going to work? But I think, again, there will be stimulus from the government to offset those. Like, they're building a new hospital in my area that conveniently was 15 years in the approval process, and now that they're not building any more houses, everyone's working there, or a lot of the local people will be working at that site. So yeah, I think that a lot of them will be transitioned, or the government will try to transition them to like infrastructure stuff, which is well needed. But that can only go so far, and I don't know the numbers on it. But obviously, there's going to be a net negative effect on jobs and construction jobs in Canada.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I'm not saying like 50% of construction jobs are going to go, but even like 5%, 10% as they're forecasting the industry themselves, is just like a huge amount of jobs. And you say it about the government stimulus, as well, like with the Algoma thing that you mentioned there. The Algoma layoffs happened. The government put 500 million in there. I mean, it just shows how stupid this government is when it comes down to it. Or maybe it's not so much stupidity as just blissful ignorance, because really they are getting a lot of people to just siphon off that money as it flows out, like the Cantillon effect. A lot of people are getting rich off that money. I'm sure the CEO, like his lifestyle hasn't changed a bit. Meanwhile, like the middle class people are taking the brunt of it. They were saying with that as well, that Melanie Jolie, who even wants to leave the Canadian depression and is eyeing up some job in Paris, ambassador to France or whatever. But she was saying like, oh yeah, we're going to be building this other steel mill or whatever. It wasn't a steel mill, but it was something to do with Algoma, and it's going to be for housing. And it's just like, do they not listen to us, John? Like, new home sales are just like 30 homes sold in Toronto or whatever it was, and that's the biggest city in Canada.
I have to basically beg people to come and just even look at the house.
What do you think?
Yeah, we never really finished that topic with home construction, new homes, I should say. Like, the problem is it's like systemically broken, like the whole system of with home building and home construction. People want homes that they can live in and afford, so that are like detached homes, and especially in the areas like this. You're not in downtown Toronto, you're not building detached homes. I understand that. No. But there's lots of land. They want homes. They never wanted these stacked towns and these shoebox condos. That was investors. But like, we still haven't switched, but they just don't know how. It's just, well, how can we build detached? It's just the numbers don't work. And yeah, the numbers don't work because you're basing it off of these old concepts in speculative times where, you need to build homes. You need to let us build our own homes. Let me choose from the catalog. Where do I build it? Okay, so they're talking about building where do we build them? Then they never talk about where we build them. They got 5 sites to do some social housing on in Canada right now that they're going to build, whatever it is, Don Mills or something. But where's the rest of the land? We have lots of land, but okay, I want to build a house. I'll build a house. I'll buy a brand new house right now, but I don't want to spend $1 million in Niagara on a new house. I want to spend $600-700, which is still way too much in my opinion. But whatever. My house, I can still sell it for a decent. Where do I buy it? Where do I build it? There's no plan. There is no plan at all. I don't know how this plan is going to come to fruition. That doesn't exist because the land's so expensive. They're just hoping they can ride it out, and wages will increase, incomes will increase, and all of a sudden people can afford to spend $1 million on a new house. But there's no talk about it, and that's what gets me with the government right now. And back to the construction jobs too. Like, so the government is subsidizing the construction industry because housing starts, they're down, but they're not down significantly. Like, we're still on track to build over 200,000 units in Canada. I call them units. They're not homes. They're units. They're, purpose-built rentals is what they are. Yeah. And they're not home. They're not detached homes. These are apartment buildings and townhouses, right? But the reason our housing starts and completions haven't dropped significantly is because the government's subsidizing it. The government's subsidizing 50-year mortgages on purpose-built rentals and things like that. So they've kept that going, but that's only going to last so long because I've talked to people in that business and that's not looking so great anymore, that program. So like, what's going to happen after this program? Like, after they built all these rentals. So, all right, we didn't build enough rentals since, for the last 30 years, but now we just built enough in the last 2 years to offset those losses. Okay, now what? And we did it through government subsidies with these mortgages, but now you have all these other people that have these detached homes that they've split illegally into upper and lower, and they can't rent their homes anymore because these tenants can now go get a purpose-built rental that actually has a fire code and stuff in it, and they don't have to worry about dying in their Brampton house with 12 people living in it. Like, just happened, right? Yeah. So you talk about that fire. That fire just happened in Brampton. I think 2 people died or something, and there was 12 people or something living in this house, and obviously they didn't have the right fire, detectors. I don't know. I don't know the whole story, but like this was not a one-time occurrence. I have friends around the corner. They moved from Brampton and they lived on the street where someone else died in a basement. And this was 2 years ago. It was right on their street. Someone, some illegal apartments, and someone died in the basement from a fire because they didn't have the right smoke alarms, or someone unplugged it, or whatever. But this is the problem with the setups right now too, is the safety of people. Like, they don't have fire codes. And Ontario just implemented, I think it was Ontario, they just implemented now that we need a carbon monoxide detector on every level. So, okay, we're getting better carbon monoxide protection for the tenants. Like a lot of the landlords, they don't know this. They're not paying attention to the news. They don't check their smoke detectors. So it's the whole purpose-built rental thing. Again, that will last for so long, and that's going to affect the market significantly too. And there'll be more inventory. There'll be more regular detached single-family homes on the market because they're not going to be able to rent them anymore, because they're like, all right, rent this home, risk dying, or living this one, and it's built to code. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think you're totally right. And there's so many cities, the charts like Hamilton, Calgary, I've seen Toronto, like it's just completely insane. The purpose-built rentals just like skyrocketing above everything.
48 buildings or something in Hamilton alone. 48 projects that were supposed to be like condos or whatever. They just converted them to purpose-built rentals. That's like not units. It was like,
wow.
How many, like there was like tens of thousands of units just in Hamilton alone that got converted. And and this is so we went in the last run up in like the 2000s. Many places went from purpose-built rentals conversions to condos. They converted those apartment buildings to condos. Now we're doing the opposite. Before they're even built, we're going the opposite way. They're converting the condos to purpose-built rentals. And actually, you can convert an existing building. There's a program for that too, where if you have an existing condo building, you can convert that too. I don't know how that works, but
jeez, wow. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be a recipe for disaster. And also, like, one last thing I wanted to discuss with you is like what's going on with population growth, because obviously population growth is teetering on going negative now, and with everything else that has kind of lagged in the housing market, how do you see the housing market taking that? And obviously you've already said about there's less students, you're seeing that. So what do you think, like how the population growth could impact the rental market, which then could impact the housing market as well indirectly?
You know what? They come out with these numbers for population dynamics in Canada, and they don't even make sense. Like they don't give you a clear, like the charts are like, I can't even focus on them because it's how many, like they don't even know, like and then they come out with a report, like they don't know how many students were on visas. Like they don't even know the numbers themselves. So first of all, we don't even really know the numbers, but yeah, it seems that, population growth is stalling in Canada. And like you said, it could go negative. And the students, regardless, even if they did allow the students, like Canadians don't want to go in to a store and it's a bunch of foreign students. And I don't care where you're from. I couldn't care if you're from Greece or you're from, which they're not, but whatever. Like it doesn't matter. They want to see local people. They don't want to walk in and just feel like they're in a different country. So, and you're seeing that in consumer habits, right? And I wish we could see some data on it, but I talked to so many people and they'll tell you, go to this Tim Hortons over here. This one's great because of this reason, right? And it's not about race or color. It's just like there's more locals working here, and they can speak to you. So you have this pushback on top of of course, the legalities of all these places promoting immigration scams is what they wear, right? So the immigration scam is over. It seems like the government allowed this because they knew they needed to stimulate the economy with human slaves. And this was, again, you look at the charts, look at the population, look at population increase in Canada, historical charts, and you see there was a big spike in the 70s when Trudeau Senior, and there was a big spike, and they were both like, he went up to like 500,000-600,000 people in like 1 year, and Trudeau like went up to 1.2. He like doubled his dad, but they were both just these big spikes, and it's never sustainable. This only happens for a short term because it's not sustainable. You'll have like social breakdown, financial breakdown. It's just, it's like an injection. It's like an adrenaline injection from Crank, High Voltage, that movie. He's got to. This is what they did to the economy, and this is a trick that they use, and then this is the next trick. Now they're going to make purpose-built rentals with CMHC loans for 50 years or whatever. So that's over. That ship sailed, and now we're just back to now. It's not about the immigration. It's what's next, right? The immigration's done. Yeah, it's over. I guess we're going to have some people that with those immigration consultants places that open up. You ever see those stores? I see this. I saw a sign on my neighbor's lawn. I posted it on X, actually. This was like 2 years ago. And they literally set up on a residential house. It says Canadian immigration. It was like an official sign. I go, what is this? A Canadian immigration opening up an office in my neighbor's house. And it was just like a consultant called it. It was like a 416 number, of course, in my neighborhood. And they're like, call this number. And then, so this is where you call up. And Canadians don't really know what's happening. They know that there was there's so many, and they were told this. So you call them up and they say, look, you want to come to Canada? Okay, just pretend you're a student. Okay, yeah, you can, but you got to go to the college. Yeah, just sign up at this college at the outlet mall over here. So these places were popping up. They're still around. I should actually go film them one day. They popped up like weed shops. They were like weed shops. Like they're all over the place, especially in Niagara, because Niagara was a big hotspot for this too. Like Brampton, right? Brampton was big too. But immigration freaking consultant places popping up. Anyway, so those are disappearing. So that's a good sign. And I don't even know how they were legal, but I guess it's just like anything you can consult. But the advice they gave people, it was like paying $300 for your commercial driver's license. That thing they did on the whatever it was, one of those news things, the CBC, and they were just no, just give me $300. And they're like, you're like, no, I want to immigrate legally, I want to do a project. Oh, they don't even know. No, $300. I fill the paperwork for you. So anyway, that ship sailed. So yeah, but that was a form of stimulus, in my opinion. That was the immigration. So so that's going to affect the overall economy, because now look at all the Hyundai Elantras are not going to sell, and Honda Civics are not going to
closing
sell,
down some places.
Yeah, all those little things that people hang off the front of their cars are not going to sell those. And the Dodge Chargers, they're not going to sell all those Dodges. They're going to lose. That's probably why they're leaving. Stellantis I never even thought about that. They're probably leaving because they're all the Dodge Chargers and the Dodge Challengers that we're not going to sell in Canada anymore because all the student immigrants are leaving. So we have no choice. We have to go to the States now.
Yeah, no, you could be right there. You could be right. John, I don't want to keep you on any longer here. Your time is precious. What are your final thoughts here? Final advice, final words that you have for anybody?
My advice would be, don't take a 50-year mortgage if they offer them. Pay off your mortgage as quick as you can. Oh, another important thing is, this is some actually important advice. So when you offer on a house, again, opportunity, if the opportunity is there, buy the house, but it's going to be probably worth less in the near future than you paid for it now. But regardless, maybe there's an opportunity. Go ahead, whatever. You're adults. Historically, when you put an offer, you want to give strongest deposits. You want to, even these days, they say, and the reason for that is because if you walk away, the seller wants some collateral. They want to know that you got skin in the game. So this is, you make a strong offer. Maybe it's a weak offer with the price, but then you give a good deposit, and the agents will tell you, you got to give a strong deposit. You got to let them know you're serious. You're not going to walk away from this deal once it's firm. The problem is now some of these brokerages are going belly up, and when a brokerage goes belly up, they steal all the money from the trust accounts. There's never been one in history that hasn't done this. So I'm advising my clients, give as little as possible. Give the smallest deposit, because we're not out here to protect the sellers, and your agent is not out here to protect the seller. Your agent, when you're buying a house, is out there to protect your interest, and your interest is to give as little as possible, because if in the case that brokerage does go bankrupt, there is insurance and all the rest of that stuff. Your deposit's supposedly safe. But what if it happens right when your house is about to close, and the insurance company can't pay you out right away and it gets delayed? At least if it's small, you can probably scrounge up a small deposit again to put back into the deal, right? This is not your down payment. This is your deposit with the offer, right? So yeah, you can come up with probably another 10 grand more easily than you can come up with another 20 or 30, or you gave them everything in your bank account. Yeah. Right. So we're in those times, and it happens. You've seen it in the news. There's been multiple just this year. There was the big one, and there was another one that went bankrupt, and they didn't go bankrupt. Sorry, the money was missing. They were going to go bankrupt, but before they go bankrupt, the money goes missing. So yeah, protect yourself out there when you're buying a house.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. John, thank you so much for coming on on. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, my man.
If you've enjoyed this video, please check out this video here. And if you're looking for a VPN and also want to help support the channel, get the best VPN, check out the link in the description below, expressvpn.com/marketmania. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.